Hi, Sarah here with an art journal page for you today. I am still using the products by Fab Planner Print, but instead of doing a planner page, I've decided to work in this cute little journal, which I got fairly recently. And this is my first page, so I'm just doing a single page rather than a double, just to start it off. So I've chosen a couple of ephemera pieces and a photograph that I think I'm going to use. I do end up changing things up a little, but you'll see that as I go along. So because these pages are more for writing rather than art, I decided to add some gesso. I want it to be fairly sturdy. I want to add layers of tissue and paint and things, so I've decided to give it a layer of gesso to begin with. I've now gone through my tissue doily random basket and grabbed some tissue paper, which has a lovely flora fauna type pattern on it, and I'm just going to tear pieces up and add it to my page. To do that, I'm using this matte medium, which means that it will stick down to the page and won't leave any sort of glue glossy marks to it because it is matte. So I add a bit onto the page with a cheap brush, then I add my tissue, and then I seal it with another layer of the medium. I do use a cheap brush for this because it is a glue and it does dry hard, so you don't want to risk ruining any good brushes doing this technique here. So I'm just adding some tissue here and there across the page, and it will all get covered up with various layers of other things, but I'm just putting a base layer down just to add some interest to the background. And I'm also going to add bits going off the page, but I don't need to worry about the edges because I'll just trim them off later. But what I do make sure I do is add the glue right to the edge so that I know that it's not going to lift later. So whilst I'm just sticking the rest of these down, if you do want to get hold of these beautiful ephemera pieces, then they are available in the Fab Planner Print shop, and I will leave my code across the screen now while this is drying, and you can get 10% off using that code, and it's a no minimum spend as well. So now I'm just trimming off the edges now I have dried that out as well. And I've just grabbed some stamps. These are by Vicky Boot and I got them from Hobbycraft, I believe. And I'm just going to add lots of different images onto my page now. And I'm just going to add this white copy paper down just to mask off the other side of the page so that it doesn't go across there. And I'm just choosing all the ones that I feel go quite well with the theme and the tissue paper that's already down there. I use quite a few of these tiny butterflies. And the ink I'm using is a Versamark because you can then go over it with a watercolour type products and it won't run. So I've just added hell up there, whoops. I'm just adding the Hello Love stamp here and there around there just to fill in some gaps. Now that I'm happy with my stamping, I'm now adding some clear gesso on top of that because I will be adding a some coloured ink on top of this. So I've just added a layer of clear gesso, let that dry, and now I'm adding some mermaid inks, Essential inks I think they're called. And I've also spritzed it with some water so that they move around more easily. That's what's in that pink bottle there. And then I'm just using a paintbrush just to help them move around, and then I do add a little more colour to this as well, especially more of the blue, and just nudging the colour around. As you can see, it is quite bold, but once I have again dried this off with my heat tool, I will then go in. I do heat the back as well just to stop it warping too much. It stops it curling as much as if you just heated one side. I'm now going in with just some acrylic paint, which I'm going to go over the whole page with just to mute the colours down so that it's more in keeping with the colours in my ephemera pieces. So I've just added a thin layer of white acrylic paint there. Next up, I'm going to add some texture, but I don't want it to be too heavy, so I'm not going to use a texture paste. I'm just using some Versamark ink, which is just the sticky ink, and that's a Versamark pen that I'm using just to fill in that writing there. And then I will use some embossing powder, which I add over the top, which sticks to the ink, and then I can just heat it up, which gives a textured, slightly raised effect, but without it being too heavy, so it won't bulk out my page as much as if I was to use texture paste, but you still get a similar effect from that. I'm just heating it from behind first, and then I'm going over the where the powders hit the page, and now that's dry. I'm just going to add some more layers. I'm going to use these doilies, again using the matte medium, just adding it underneath, placing it down, adding it on top. I keep checking my vellum pieces on my page because I want to build up enough layers and opacity so that the vellum does show up and doesn't get lost on the background. So I do want to add a fair amount of white pieces that are just opaque enough so that it lets the vellum pop off the page. I'm just going to roughly trim off this half of the doily here because then I can add that down the other side whilst the one at the bottom dries. So I'm just working out where I want to put them, and as you can see I have layered them up just to create a more opaque finish than if it was just one layer, and I also think it looks pretty with two layers anyway. So doing the same technique there, just layering the glue down, the medium down, then layering it on top, adding the next one, and then layering on top of that to seal it in. And I think that's about all I do for these layers. Yep, I'm moving on to washi now. I've grabbed some floral washi which has the nice light mint green in it and also a bit of pink, and I'm just adding it on my page here and there. And now that my doilies are dry, I'm going to trim them off as well and trim around the edge so it's nice and neat. And I also will be using gesso on the page on the back so that all the ink that shows through doesn't matter. On my next page I will just cover it up and start over. So with my washi it didn't stick down too well, so I've just added a little bit of ATG gun tape just to help it stick down. And again, I'm not happy with how dark the background is still. I think it should be even lighter, so yet again I go over it. And now I'm going to work on some layers behind my photo just to add a bit of texture. So I've just added some tissue paper there, adding a bit more tape because they were all stuck down, and then I'm just trimming around so it's not neat but fairly close to the photo. I didn't want loads of tissue hanging off the edge, just wanted it there for a bit of lift, a bit of texture. I'm also not happy with the hello love across there because it is slightly blurred because I didn't write it finely enough, so I'm going to cover that up with my photo. I'm just adding tape rather than my tape gun now because it would get caught on that fabric. That's just some cheesecloth or gauze depending on what you call it, just to add an extra texture again. And then I'm just going to add some tape to the back of that so it's ready to stick down when I'm ready to put everything down to finish. So if you like this style of video from me and you would like to see me utilise the Fab Planner print products in different ways, then please let me know with a comment at the bottom, and please like and subscribe if you have just found me and you would like to see more from me. I do also do scrapbooking videos and planner videos, different mixed media techniques. So now I'm just adding a few splashes of acrylic paint just for added interest, added texture. And now I'm getting around to stick it down. Those are just magnets just to hold it in place on my magnetic cupboard. This is my creator sticker. This works great if you want to use vellum pieces because it leaves a really even layer of adhesive so that you don't have any glue dots showing through on the vellum piece. And all I'm doing is rubbing it on so I make sure that the adhesive is stuck really well to the pieces of vellum there. I'm just going to add them to my page now that it's almost finished, and just choosing where to put them. And because I've added so much white and kept adding layers of white, it has made it so that they do pop off the page now, whereas it wouldn't have done when it was so vibrant earlier. That's the fun thing about doing a bit of art journaling. You can just layer and layer until you're happy, and it just changes with every layer. It completely changes. just adding some white gel pen here. I just felt like it needed a little bit of a scribbly border. It's just a nice rough one that goes well with the splashes of ink, so nothing neat. And I think I'm about done. Yes, so thanks for joining me. If you'd like to see more from me, as I said, then please do like and subscribe. I will be back shortly with a Plan With Me video, so stay tuned for that, and have a great day everyone. Bye!